Hello bankers, a very good evening to all of you. Welcome back. So guys, in this particular session, we are going to discuss our unit number 20th, which is all about term loan. Okay. So term loan, which is generally granted for the mostly for the for the capital buildings or for the purchase or procurement of property, plants, equipments, goodwill, patents. Usually it is consumed for the long term assets आपका by the companies. ठीक है. There are some cases where it can be granted for working capital loan as well. ठीक है. So in this particular session we will be discussing all important subtopic of this particular unit, and they are definitely going to help you out in your upcoming examination. ठीक है. So we have done with these units. So today we are going to talk around the term loan. Okay, so term loan, which include important point about the term loan. Then we have deferred payment guarantee, different between term loan appraisal and project appraisal in stages, appraisal and financing of infrastructure project. Okay. So these are the subtopics which are generally part of this particular one, and we are going to cover each and every single subtopic and their related most important concept. ठीक है. So when it comes to the term loan आपका, as I said कि जैसे कोई भी कंपनी आपका कंपनीज दे जनरली टेक टर्म लोन फॉर दी आपका कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग. ठीक है. सो बेसिकली इट इज समथिंग फॉर दी purchase or procurements of long-term assets, like let's say they have to set up one new plant, or they are doing some sort of expansion of their business, so they are making some sort of आपका एडिशनल ऑफिस सेटअप्स एंड ऑल. ठीक है. तो जितने भी आपके लॉन्ग टर्म रिक्वायरमेंट्स आपके हैं कंपनीज उनके लिए, एंड देयर आर सम टाइम इट इज यूज फॉर दी वर्किंग कैपिटल ऑल्सो. ठीक है. एंड वेरी इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड. तो जल्दी से आपका जो भी इसके इंपॉर्टेंट एरियाज हैं एज पर योर बुक दैट वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस. टर्म लोन आर जनरली यूज टू एक्वायर फिक्स एसेट लाइक property, plants, equipment, machinery, while working capital loan are used to maintain day-to-day operations. ठीक है. And term loans are usually for the long term. आपका ठीक है. This is the core objective. ठीक है. In some cases, आपका working capital term loan are also available. ठीक है. In special cases, bank may provide term loan for the current asset, also known as working capital term loan. ठीक है. When the enterprise cannot bring in enough net working capital from its sources as well. It happened mostly in cases where their long term asset building is right. So like कई बार होता है ना, companies they have allocated their asset in a right direction. Their overall solvency things is fine, but due to some delays in inventories or आपका bills receivables, they are facing some sort of challenges. ठीक है. तो for those particular one, sometimes we generally allocate term loan or working capital term loan to the companies. But mostly when it comes to the term loan, it is आपका long term in nature, and it is generally given to companies for acquiring long term asset itself. ठीक है. So loan nature आपका working capital loan are usually for 1 year and payable on demands. Like we have cash credit, we have overdrafts or any other one. So whereas term loan are repaid as per the fixed schedule and are considered long-term assets. आपका ठीक है. Repayment consideration, term loan are repaid from future cash flows. Hence, the debt service coverage ratio (DSCR) is important here. In contrast, liquidity ratios are more significant in case of your working capital loan. So for that sake, we generally analyze companies' performance on the basis of their आपका नेट वर्किंग कैपिटल रेशियो और आपका करंट रेशियो, क्विक रेशियो एंड ऑल. ठीक है. पेमेंट शेड्यूल आपका टर्म लोन हैव वेरीड पेमेंट शेड्यूल्स. ठीक है. Depending on the borrower's cash surplus, it can be EMI for salaried individual, seasonal repayments for farmers, और bullet payments आपका lump sum payments for industrial borrowers and all. ठीक है. So basic differences between term loan and working capital loan. I hope this is clear to everyone. And you guys can expect one question for 1 marks or half marks based on this particular classification. Usually when it comes to the term loan, so as we discussed, it is for the long term period, and the repayment that is generally done in the form of EMIs. But in case of working capital term loan, it is for short term period up to 1 year, and to meet the short term debt obligations of the company itself, and the repayment happen in a lump sum amounts and all. So डिफरेंस बिटवीन टर्म लोन अप्रेजल एंड प्रोजेक्ट अप्रेजल, ठीक है। टर्म लोन अप्रेजल इज आपका बेसिकली व्हेन वी आर सैंक्शनिंग सम लोन टू द कस्टमर्स, ठीक है, इट कैन बी एनी कंपनी और एनी इंडिविजुअल, ठीक है। एंड आपका प्रोजेक्ट अप्रेजल आपका जैसे कंपनीज दे आर आस्किंग फॉर लोन फॉर सम स्पेसिफिक प्रोजेक्ट एंड ऑल, ठीक है। सो वी जनरली चेक दी वाइबिलिटी ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर प्रोजेक्ट, ठीक है, कि कितना कैश फ्लो से आने वाले समय में हो सकता है, ठीक है। एंड द रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आपका और ROE बेसिकली that should be higher than the overall borrowing cost, ठीक है। And we should आपका make sure कि there will be like let's say that company is taking some sort of EMIs, ठीक है। तो जो EMIs के ऊपर आपका उसका जो burden है that they can pay off through that particular project and all, ठीक है। So project appraisal which include like site visit और आपका the viability of that particular project. For that sake we generally do economic analysis, आपका business analysis, business risk, market risk, everything we have to consider in that one. In case of आपका loan appraisal, that is आपका toward the link with the project itself, we have due diligence, KYC, credit ratings and other things we generally follow in that particular one, ठीक है। So project appraisal involve evaluating all financial need of the enterprise including working capital. It assess the total long term funds requirements, promoters contribution and lead to deciding the loan amounts, ठीक है। टर्म लोन अप्रेजल्स आपका for standalone purpose may not require such detailed evaluation, especially for smaller or less impactful purposes, ठीक है। Like let's say कोई आपका छोटा मोटा लोन है तो वहां पे you do not have to go through the entire, you do not have to analyze the entire project and all, ठीक है। It is totally depend on the capacity or the scoring of that particular individual borrowers or the company borrowers, ठीक है। So depth of evaluation, ठीक है। So in project finance, detailed analysis such as techno-economic feasibility, IRR, internal rate of return, ठीक है, marginal competence is necessary. Let's say we are financing, there is some construction company who is creating or constructing some like housing project or some dam or airport or आपका highways and all, ठीक है। So we have to check the overall viability of that particular project. When company will start receiving cash और आपका what is the past performances, the overall fundamentals of that particular company, ठीक है, the other आपका project, how they are doing with those particular project and everyone, ठीक है। So we have to make sure कि they should have a proper availability of cash in their business, ठीक है। तो अगर है other sources या others कैसे वो काम कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, what is the overall cash flows and all, so they can meet their debt obligation if we are investing in that kind of companies, right? But smaller companies के अंदर इतना challenge आपका नहीं आता, ठीक है। So in simple terms, machinery or personal loans, bank may only review the short term projection and these are basically we generally hypothecate them, ठीक है। So आपका कहीं ना कहीं if they'll default we can take the position on those particular asset and it is recoverable, right? And check the debt service coverage ratio to judge the payment repayment ability of the firm, ठीक है। So while the basic principle are similar, term loan appraisal is generally simpler than the full project appraisal because in this particular situation we are analyzing the entire project, the viability of that particular project in long term, कि आपका what is the completion period, आपका then after completion period how it will generate the overall cash flow for the business, वो सारी चीजें आपको ध्यान रखनी है। बट टर्म लोन के अंदर थोड़ा सा इतनी सारी चीजें आपको देखने के लिए नहीं मिलेंगी, ठीक है। इट इज मोस्टली डिपेंड ऑन दी पास्ट बैलेंस शीट और द फंडामेंटल्स ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर कंपनी एज वेल एज आपका दी ओवरऑल डेट, वी कैन यूज आपका डेट सर्विस कवरेज रेशियो, मतलब लॉन्ग टर्म आपका सॉल्वेंसी रेशियोज, बेसिकली वी कैन यूज दोज पर्टिकुलर वन, with that we can make analysis. But in case of project appraisal it is depend on so many factors आपका, ठीक है। The success of project is very important and for success of that particular project we have so many elements, so we have to consider all those particular one, ठीक है। So now project appraisal आपका what comes under this particular one, ठीक है। So project appraisal is a comprehensive evaluation of credit proposal and cover the following 8 key areas. First one is आपका prima facie acceptability appraisals, ठीक है। Ensure that proposed industry or activity compile with legal, regulatory and banking norms, ठीक है। Check risk guidelines and legal aspect like land uses, clearance एंड आपका सेक्टर एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी एंड ऑल, ठीक है। लैंड जैसे हमने आपका डिस्कस किया ना, लेट्स से वी आर फाइनेंसिंग टू अ प्रोजेक्ट विच इज समथिंग रिलेटेड टू कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ हाईवेज। तो अब इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केस समटाइम व्हाट हैपन, ठीक है, वो जो आपका लैंड क्लियरेंस है दैट बिकम अ सीरियस इशू, ठीक है। तो जिसकी वजह से देयर इज लॉन्ग डिलेज इन दी ओवरऑल क्लियरेंस और इवन इन दी प्रोजेक्ट। अगर 1 साल से भी डिले होता है, that means that company is going to generate cash flows after 1 year, ठीक है। So how you will fill that particular gap, that is very important in this particular one, first point, ठीक है। मैनेजमेंट अप्रेजल आपका, ठीक है, so evaluate the competence, integrity and experiences of promoters or the management itself, ठीक है। So what is the past experiences of that particular company or else like who all are the part of the board of directors, ठीक है, और कैसे उनके ओवरऑल होल्डिंग है एंड ऑल, ठीक है। It emphasize the 5 C's आपका, जैसे कैरेक्टर, कैपेसिटी, कैपिटल, collateral and conditions. These we have discussed 7 C's, 5 C's in our first unit itself. I hope you guys remember. Pre-sanction check include interview, site visit and KYC compliances. Then third one is environmental appraisal आपका, ठीक है, assess the environmental impact and ensure require legal clearance are obtained, ठीक है, जैसे pollution से हो सकता है या फिर land related issues हो सकते हैं या others, ठीक है। तो दैट इज अगेन अ मेजर कंसर्न, ठीक है। सो इन प्रोजेक्ट अप्रेजल लाइक दिस इज वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड वन, ठीक है, एंड यूजुअली इट इज फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म एंड there are so many stakeholders which are generally involved in this one. So we have to, as a banker, we have to be very careful around this one, and even the money we are going to invest in that particular project, that is comparatively आपका higher than the term loans आपका, ठीक है। Then next one आपका economic appraisal studies macroeconomic factor affecting the project success, look at market demands, competition and long term viability. So we have market appraisal team, analyze product demands, target customers, pricing trend and competition, evaluate whether there is a sufficient demand for the proposed product or services or not. Technical appraisal आपका, review technical aspect like process suitability, availability of raw material, infrastructure, technology, ensure the technical feasibility of the project and financial appraisal, ठीक है। Review the financial viability and sustainability of the project, analyze past financial performance in case of existing business, ठीक है। So when it comes to the project appraisal आपका, ठीक है, so we have to fundamentally test a company by on the basis of these 8 different grounds आपका, ठीक है। Very important one, please do remember these particular one, ठीक है। So project appraisal is bit complicated compared to your term loan. Term loan is something आपका, there is a company who is taking loan, they are raising some sort of debt. It can be आपका it can be simply based on the credit worthiness of that particular firm. But in case of project appraisal, where your EMIs repayments depend on the success of that particular project, okay? So then we have to be very careful and we have to do some sort of analysis of the overall viability of that particular project itself, okay? Now जैसे आपका दिस इज गिवन इन योर बुक इटसेल्फ, ठीक है, तो जहां पे लाइक कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोजेक्ट एंड मीन ऑफ फाइनेंसिंग, ठीक है। सो लेट्स से हाउ वी कैन एनालाइज a project and while we are doing the project appraisal, ठीक है। So like it is आपका land site development which is cost of the project, ठीक है। These are the cost component of the project, ठीक है। Building and other civil work, plant and machinery, furniture, fixture, ठीक है, vehicle equipments, primary and pre operative expenses, ठीक है। Interest during the construction, ठीक है। Then we have contingencies and working capital margin, and for these one will be requiring some sort of finance like land side, this share capital can be existing and infusion, ठीक है। Building and other आपका reserve and surplus, these requirement, ठीक है, these are the kind of cost of the project and these are the basic requirements of a project, and these requirement can be met with these particular tools आपका, ठीक है। Reserve and surplus, we have plant and machinery, internal accruals during the construction, ठीक है। We have capital subsidy, we have vehicle आपका, ठीक है, USL from the promoters, friend or relatives, term loans आपका, ठीक है, deferred payment guarantee and subordinated debt. So these are the sources आपका from where companies usually they fulfill their requirements. Usually they generally fulfill their requirements to meet these particular one. ठीक है, चलो now अब यहाँ से the most important part will start from here itself, जहाँ पे we have break even point analysis, we have your margin of safety, we have contribution calculation, we have cost volume profit analysis. ठीक है, तो वो सब पोर्शन आपका स्टार्ट होगा. सो यू हैव टू बी वेरी पेशेंट, यू हैव टू लर्न दीज पर्टिकुलर थिंग वेरी carefully, because you guys are going to face some sort of case studies around those particular one. All right guys, so estimate of cost of production and profitability. ठीक है, so cost of production overall आपका that we generally do with the help of, like, it can be contract costing or job costing. Mostly it is contract costing because it is long term project. Let's say if we are financing there is a company, let's say Adani Enterprise, they are building an airport. Okay? So if they are building that airport, obviously it is not a overnight journey. Okay? So they will be requiring 3 years, 5 years to build that particular one. Okay? Let's say that project is for 10,000 crore rupees and you are going to finance that particular one. Okay? So it can be solely or it can be a syndicated loan. Now in this particular situation, we have, like, first we have to go through that project finance appraisal stages and all. After that we have to check the overall viability and profitability of that particular business. ठीक है, कि आपका, like, we'll do cost volume profit analysis, we'll do break even, when this company will meet the break even things and all. ठीक है, और the other areas also. ठीक है, तो ये बहुत important area है. ठीक है, basically it is part of the cost accounting. We'll discuss that particular one in detail. ठीक है, so first आपका fundamentals, estimate of cost of production and profitability. Profitability, this we generally use आपका cost volume profit analysis, which is profit is equal to your आपका sales. ठीक है, सेल्स माइनस कॉस्ट. बट दिस इज नॉट एज सिंपल एज दैट. ठीक है, सेल्स आपका, ठीक है, हाउ यू कैलकुलेट सेल्स. ठीक है, सो सेल्स इज इक्वल टू आपका इट इज सेलिंग प्राइस इनटू नंबर्स. ठीक है, सेलिंग प्राइस इनटू नंबर्स. एंड कॉस्ट आपका, व्हेन इट कम्स टू द कॉस्ट, इट इज इक्वल टू फिक्स कॉस्ट प्लस वेरिएबल कॉस्ट. ठीक है, फिक्स कॉस्ट विच रिमेन फिक्स आपका थ्रू आउट द पीरियड, वेरिएबल कॉस्ट आपका विच वेरी विद द नंबर्स. ठीक है, देन वी हैव, if it comes to the variable cost is equal to वेरिएबल कॉस्ट पर यूनिट. ठीक है, पर यूनिट इनटू नंबर्स आपका. ठीक है, सो विद दिस वे we'll calculate the cost volume profit analysis for break even points. First we have to calculate your contribution. ठीक है, basically break even point is equal to fixed cost divided by contribution. How you calculate contribution? Contribution is equal to selling price minus variable cost. So these are some areas. Then margin of safety आपका, or even sometime we use आपका, in case of contract costing, we have to profit to date, or these kind of calculation are generally part of this particular one. ठीक है, so one by one we'll be discussing these one. So this assessment determine whether the business can produce goods at cost low enough to generate sufficient profit margin in a competitive market. Basically the idea is कि, like, आपका, let's say if we are investing something, ठीक है, let's say our overall on an average borrowing cost is 7% or 10%, our ROA should be higher than that particular one. ठीक है, तो for that one we generally use different capital investment appraisals method. Majorly we go for the net present value method. ठीक है, so NPV आपका जो सबसे ज्यादा यूज होता है, and your NPV outcome should be greater than equal to 0 आपका. ठीक है, और आपका greater than 1 आप you can simply say it, or it can be आपका greater than 0 आपका. ठीक है, if it is less than 0, reject that particular project. If your NPV is less than 0 on that particular project, there is no point to invest or finance in that particular project. Okay? And if it is आपका greater than 0, that means your NPV will be in positive numbers. You can accept that particular one. जहां पे जितना हायर एनपीवी होगा उतनी ज्यादा प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी होगी. ठीक है, देन इफ इट इज इक्वल टू 0, वी कैन, if we want to invest, we can test through the IRR. ठीक है, internal rate of return methods, we can calculate the profitability. So a borrower's loan repayment capacity depend on their ability to generate a surplus and operations. Profitability statement are based on assumptions that must be validated against industry conditions. Now this point is why this point is mentioned here. Because, like, see, that company is going to deliver that particular project or complete that particular project in next 5 years or 10 years. We are doing some sort of assumption. These जितने ज्यादा आपकी assumptions accurate होंगे, उतनी ज्यादा आपकी चीजें सही डायरेक्शन में जाएंगी, ठीक है। लाइक इफ योर एजम्पशन इज कंप्लीटली रॉन्ग, लेट्स से एज पर योर एजम्पशंस और appraisals things, the NPV was आपका 10, but when it comes to the reality it was in negative. That means that company is going to make some sort of losses, and if company will make losses, that means their financial health will come down and there is a risk will be in the repayments of loan and all, ठीक है। So this assumption should be आपका जो भी assumptions company के द्वारा दिए जा रहे हैं all, as a banker we have to validate those particular one, we have to compare with the industry or even that entire analysis of economy and others, ठीक है। The profitability is assessed over entire project duration और लोन रीपेमेंट पीरियड आपका विच एवर इज लॉन्गर, ठीक है। सो ये स्टेटमेंट आपको मिलेंगे एग्जाम्स में, ठीक है। सो एंटायर प्रोजेक्ट ड्यूरेशन लाइक इफ इट इज फॉर 5 years और आपका लोन रीपेमेंट, इफ योर लोन इज फॉर 3 years, let's say you are going getting back that money within 3 years, then 3 years is deadline for you. But if it is आपका for 5 years, your loan period, they have taken loan for 10 years, so you have to check the profitability or viability of that particular project for 10 years even for the company also, ठीक है, because we will get our money back within these particular periods. So key factors in estimating cost and profitability that include installed capacity, do they have that enough capacity to execute that particular project or not, ठीक है। तो उनका मतलब आपने प्रोजेक्ट तो ले लिया, बहुत बार ऐसा होता है, ठीक है, कंपनीज दे टेक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, देन आपका दे फेल्ड इन डिलीवरी, इफ दे फेल ऑब्वियसली गवर्नमेंट इज नॉट गोइंग टू पे देम, अगर गवर्नमेंट पे नहीं करेगी या जो भी आपका पार्टी है वो नहीं पे करेगी, ऑब्वियसली दे आपका डिफॉल्ट, ठीक है। नंबर ऑफ शिफ्ट एंड वर्किंग डेज आपका, ठीक है, कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन, हाउ दे आर यूजिंग रिसोर्सेज, प्रोडक्ट मिक्स आपका, क्वांटिटी एंड प्राइस ऑफ इनपुट, quantity and price of output, unit cost of production, labor and other direct cost, ठीक है। So basically these are the components which we will use here आपका, ठीक है, वो cost volume profit analysis के अंदर we are going to use these particular one, ठीक है। So now commercial appraisal आपका assess the business ability to generate enough profit to a service its debt in term of time and quantity. Even if all other appraisals are favorable, poor commercial viability can lead to a loan default and all, ठीक है। तो 7 we have discussed earlier, this is the 8th one आपका, ठीक है। So this should be 8th one आपका, जैसे हमने आपका डिस्कस किया था ना, these were the 7, ठीक है। ओवरऑल we have 8 key areas, 1, ठीक है, आपका प्राइमरी फेस किया, ठीक है, लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट्स इन ऑल, मैनेजमेंट अप्रेजल्स, ओवरऑल कंपनीज, बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स इन ऑल, 3 आपका एनवायरमेंटल, 4th आपका इकोनॉमिक, 5th वन आपका मार्केट, 6th वन आपका टेक्निकल एंड 7th इज आपका फाइनेंशियल। नाउ इट कम्स टू द फाइनल आपका, that is 8th one, that is your commercial appraisal, and that is one of the most important and significant role in the overall project appraisal because it is डायरेक्टली लिंक विद द प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर बिजनेस, की आपने सब कुछ बढ़िया आपके फेवर में है, बट इफ यू आर नॉट जनरेटिंग मनी फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर वन, इट इज यूजलेस फॉर अस बिकॉज वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू इन्वेस्ट आवर मनी इन सच एरियाज वेयर वी माइट फेस दीज काइंड ऑफ डिफॉल्ट्स एंड ऑल, ठीक है। तो बेसिकली दिस पार्ट इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट, so we have to focus on ability to repay the loan, a cuisine or a fallback in case of non repayments, ठीक है। cuisine और fallback means आपका like the collaterals and others, and how if we are lending in these kind of things, so what additional things we have or what plan we have to recover that particular money and all, ठीक है। so for this one आपका for commercial appraisal we apply break even analysis आपका, ठीक है। so when it comes to the break even points, it is a point of no profit no loss आपका, ठीक है। let's say the overall cost is 10 crore and the overall revenue generated is 10 crore, ठीक है। the overall cost is 10,000 crore and the overall revenue generated by the company is 10,000 crore, ठीक है। this is the minimum benchmark which we require, ठीक है। क्यों? because if the like let's say if you are not going to meet that cost, that means you are in loss, your business is at risk, and how you'll repay the money, ठीक है। so total cost is equal to total sales revenue, no profit no loss, that is generally known as your break even point, used to assess commercial health and determine when loan repayment can start it, ठीक है। so that is known key concept आपका to calculate break even point, we have fixed cost does not vary with the production, like we have property plants equipments and all these kind of things, ठीक है। these are the fixed cost आपका, ठीक है। जैसे आपका that manufacturing plant or whatever it is, ठीक है, so they are generally part of the fixed cost, ठीक है, and which remain fixed आपका, which does not vary with the number of output आपका, that is variable cost, ठीक है। variable, let's say we are any company who come up with a project आपका, they want to establish a manufacturing plant for markers. So अब ये जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्लान का ओवरऑल सेटअप है, दैट इज जनरली बेस्ड ऑन दिस मार्कर आपका, जैसे मशीन आपका लेआउट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एवरीथिंग, दैट इज पार्ट ऑफ दिस वन. ठीक है. नाउ if you produce one marker, that means the plastic required for this one marker, ink required for one marker, in that is your one marker cost. If let's say it is 10 rupees, if you आपका produce 100, so 10 into 100. If you produce 1 lakh, 1 lakh into 10 आपका. ठीक है. If you 10 lakh, 10 lakh into 10 आपका, that is variable cost which vary with the numbers, but that fixed cost आपका, that manufacturing capacity which we have built up, that remain fixed over the time. ठीक है. वेरिएबल कॉस्ट विच वेरी विद द नंबर्स आपका, टोटल कॉस्ट आपका इज इक्वल टू फिक्स कॉस्ट प्लस वेरिएबल कॉस्ट. ठीक है. प्रॉफिट स्टार्ट ओनली आफ्टर कवरिंग द फिक्स कॉस्ट थ्रू द प्रोडक्शन बियॉन्ड अ सर्टेन वॉल्यूम, दैट इज आपका, दैट सर्टेन नंबर्स और वॉल्यूम इज योर ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट. ठीक है. तो इफ यू आर above the break even point, that means the company is going to generate profit. If they are below, that means they are in loss. ठीक है. So अब यहाँ पे there are some things, a few pointers which are generally required to understand. ठीक है. So first I'll give you a basic understanding around this one. ठीक है. So as I said, we have profit is equal to your sales. Please make your understanding for this one very clear cut. Sales minus cost आपका. ठीक है. Sales minus cost. Now sales, how you will calculate sales आपका. ठीक है. How you will calculate sales? So sales is equal to, ठीक है, sales is equal to your selling price. ठीक है. selling price into numbers. ठीक है. number of unit आपका. ठीक है. number of unit we sold. ठीक है. when it come to cost आपका, ठीक है, cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. ठीक है. and variable cost is equal to your variable cost per unit into number of unit. ठीक है. number of unit. So let's say I'll take one example so we can have a better understanding. ठीक है. So let's say there is a company XYZ. ठीक है. They are producing this marker and their selling price is 100 rupees and आपका selling price is 100 rupees. ठीक है. number of units sold आपका, ठीक है, number of units sold, sorry, आपका cost, let's say आपका fixed cost is 5 lakh rupees. ठीक है. and variable cost per unit is suppose that आपका 30 rupees. ठीक है. 30 rupees and number of units sold. ठीक है. unit sold is suppose that how much? Suppose that 1 lakh. ठीक है. so now these are the number. Based on this you have to calculate the profit of this particular organization. First thing, we can calculate the profitability easily आपका. ठीक है. first thing आपका, so profit is equal to sales minus cost. तो their cost is आपका, sale is, first of all, sale is, so sale is equal to, sales is equal to 100 into 1 lakh. ठीक है. 1 lakh into 100. ठीक है. so this is the sales. ठीक है. cost आपका, when it comes to the cost, ठीक है, fixed cost is how much? 5 lakh. ठीक है. 5 lakh is fixed cost plus variable cost. Now how you will calculate variable cost? Variable cost is per unit is 30 into आपका how many units they have sold? 1 lakh. ठीक है. 30 lakhs आपका. ठीक है. so it is आपका 30 lakhs. so overall cost is how much? 35 lakhs. ठीक है. 35 lakhs and this is आपका कितना हो जाएगा ये? 1 lakh, 10 lakh, 1 crore. ठीक है. 1 crore आपका. ठीक है. if I'm wrong somewhere, please do correct, but you have to build your understanding for this one. ठीक है. so now you know the profit. ठीक है. so overall sale is 1 crore and the cost is 35 crores. ठीक है. so 35 lakh आपका, that means they have a made a profit of 65 lakh on this particular one. ठीक है. तो their overall profit is 65 lakh in this particular case. अगर कोई कैलकुलेशन एरर है तो देख लेना. ठीक है. but this is the things आपका. अब यहाँ से if you have to calculate the break even point. ठीक है. so based on this, if you have to check the break even point of this particular company, so how we calculate break even point? It is fixed cost divided by contribution. ठीक है. now I'll let you know how to calculate contribution. so contribution आपका, इसका नाम ही है contribution. it is contribution toward the recovery of fixed cost आपका. ठीक है. contribution toward the recovery of fixed cost. ठीक है. toward the recovery of fixed cost. how we calculate this one? ठीक है. it is आपका सेलिंग प्राइस माइनस आपका वेरिएबल कॉस्ट. तो सेलिंग प्राइस वाज हाउ मच? 100 रुपीज वेरिएबल कॉस्ट इज 10, ठीक है। सो 100 माइनस 30 आपका, सो इट इज इक्वल टू कितना हो जाएगा 70। सो 70 रुपीज इज योर आपका कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन, ठीक है। नाउ यू कैन इजीली कैलकुलेट दिस वन। फिक्स कॉस्ट वाज हाउ मच, 5 लाख डिवाइड बाय 70 कितना होता है। नाउ आई विल यूज कैलकुलेटर, ठीक है। सो क्या होता है आपका, यू कैन यूज वर्चुअल कैलकुलेटर्स ऑल्सो, ठीक है। डिवाइड बाय 70, सो इट इज आपका 7143, ठीक है। अगर हम इसको हाँ, इफ यू राउंड ऑफ इट कम्स अराउंड 7143 आपका, ठीक है। 7143, द एग्जैक्ट नंबर इज आपका 7142.85 आपका, ठीक है। सो दिस इज द नंबर। सो दिस इज आपका, दिस इज यूनिट, ठीक है। दिस इज यूनिट, दे नीड टू सेल दिस वन, ठीक है। this is the volume they need to sell. If you'll come to the overall, these मतलब this company need to sell 7143 यूनिट्स आपका, ठीक है। इनको इतने यूनिट सेल करने होंगे। अगर आप इसका वॉल्यूम निकालेंगे तो इट इज आपका 7143 इंटू कितना था हमारा सेलिंग प्राइस आपका 100, अच्छा ओके, इंटू 100 आपका। सो इट इज देयर वॉल्यूम इज 71,000, सॉरी 7,14,300, ठीक है। 7,14,300 इज देयर आपका वॉल्यूम, ठीक है। जहां से आपका दैट इज देयर ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट वॉल्यूम आपका। देयर ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट इन यूनिट्स मींस, इसका सिंपल सा मतलब क्या है, दिस कंपनी नीड टू सेल 7,443 यूनिट्स। So if they'll sell that particular one at 100 rupees, they'll make sure their break even point is met, ठीक है। तो उनका break even point आपका no profit no loss में आ जाएंगे। इससे ऊपर जितने भी यूनिट आपका, वन सिंगल यूनिट आपका, दैट विल बी द प्रॉफिट ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर कंपनी। इससे नीचे जितने भी यूनिट आपका, दैट इज द लॉस ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर कंपनी आपका, ठीक है। सो हाउ वी कैलकुलेट ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट आपका, दिस इज लिंक विद दिस वन। नाउ वन अनदर थिंग, ठीक है। कई बार वो आपको पूछेगा कि दे विल गिव सम सिचुएशन इफ कंपनी इंक्रीज देयर सेलिंग प्राइस, ठीक है। इफ कंपनी इंक्रीज देयर सेलिंग प्राइस फ्रॉम 100 to 120 आपका, ठीक है। सो व्हाट विल बी द इम्पैक्ट ऑन ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट, ऑब्वियसली ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट विल कम डाउन, ठीक है। तो ये जो 7000 नंबर्स हैं, ऑब्वियसली इट विल कम डाउन बिकॉज आपका, हम क्या करेंगे यहाँ पे फिर 120, मतलब आर कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन विल चेंज। कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन कितना हो जाएगा, 120 माइनस 30, 90 हो जाएगा। तो आपका 5 लाख डिवाइड बाय 90, ऑब्वियसली दिस नंबर विल बी एट लेसर साइड। वन अनदर थिंग अराउंड दिस पर्टिकुलर वन इज योर मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी, ठीक है। मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी इज अगेन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। सो मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी, हाउ वी कैलकुलेट मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी, ठीक है। देखो मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी को हम लोग कैसे कैलकुलेट कर रहे होते हैं, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट होना, ध्यान रखिएगा, ठीक है। सो मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी इज आपका estimated sales, estimated sales minus your break even sales, break even sales, break even sales divide by estimated sales, estimated sales into 100. This is the formula for margin of safety. Margin of safety is basically, मतलब ये कंपनी जिसको दे हैव टू सेल आपका 7143 यूनिट्स, नाउ दे आर टारगेटिंग कि वी विल सेल आपका 10,000 यूनिट। हम कितने यूनिट बेचेंगे आपका 10,000, ठीक है। तो दिस गैप इज बेसिकली, दिस इज द मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर बिजनेस, ठीक है। दे आर टेकिंग अ मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी ऑफ दिस दीज नंबर्स। अगर अमाउंट में निकालोगे तो इनटू आपका वॉट एवर योर सेलिंग प्राइस इट इज, ठीक है। तो मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी इज बेसिकली बिलो विच योर प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी इज नो मोर, ठीक है, और योर प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी इज एट रिस्क, ठीक है। बिकॉज बिलो विच मींस आपका मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी से नीचे क्या आ जाएगा, योर आपका दैट इज जनरली नोन एज यू ब्रीच योर ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट, ठीक है। सो होप दिस इज क्लियर। अगर आपको ये चीज समझ में आ गया है तो थ्योरेटिकली बहुत आसान है, ठीक है। एवरीथिंग आई हैव कवर्ड विद दिस पर्टिकुलर एग्जांपल, ठीक है। तो कंट्रीब्यूशन आपका सेलिंग प्राइस माइनस वेरिएबल कॉस्ट, ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट आपका फिक्स कॉस्ट डिवाइड बाय कंट्रीब्यूशन, ठीक है। जैसे यहाँ पे एक एग्जांपल भी दे रखा है, ठीक है। प्रोडक्शन बियॉन्ड ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट कंट्रीब्यूट टू प्रॉफिट आपका, ठीक है। दिस एक्सेस इज कॉल्ड मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी, ठीक है। जैसा हमारा 7,000 आपका ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट था, 7,000 यूनिट्स, एंड वी आर हैविंग, लेट्स से वी प्रोड्यूस 10,000, तो दिस इज आर मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी, ठीक है। ये हमारी क्या है, मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी है। बिजनेसेस दे डू दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स कि भैया 7,000 इज योर डेडलाइन, इससे नीचे तो आप सर्वाइव ही नहीं कर पाओगे। सो वी आर टारगेटिंग दिस नंबर, ठीक है। ये हमारी एस्टिमेटेड सेल्स है और आपका दिस इज ब्रेक इवन सेल्स, जो भी जितना भी ब्रेक इवन से ऊपर है दैट इज योर मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी, ठीक है, वो आपको प्रोटेक्ट कर रहा है प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी के लिए। बट हाँ, इफ यू ब्रीच दैट पर्टिकुलर वन यू विल बी इन लॉस, ठीक है। सो ब्रेक इवन पॉइंट के लेवल्स आपका यहाँ पे दिए गए हैं, ठीक है। इफ इट इज लेस देन 50, आपका लेस देन 50% हेल्दी, आपका 51 to 60% इट इज आपका लो रिस्क, 66 to 70 मीडियम रिस्क, 71 to 85 हाई रिस्क, एंड मोर देन 85 इट इज वेरी हाई रिस्क, ठीक है। तो ये आपका लेवल इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट वन एंड यू हैव टू मेमोराइज दिस, ठीक है, ये आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा दोस्तों, ठीक है, क्योंकि यहाँ ऐसे पॉइंट्स पे क्वेश्चन बहुत बार आपको देखने के लिए मिलेंगे, ठीक है। चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं, अप्रेजल एंड फाइनेंसिंग ऑफ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट, अब नया टॉपिक, ठीक है। सो फार व्हाट वी हैव डन, appraisal of project finance, ठीक है। So we have 8 elements, 8 components and we just done with that particular one. Now we'll move forward. Definition in sector आपका पहले अब किसके लिए है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट के लिए, ठीक है। सो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट आर डिफाइंड बाय द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस through the gazette notification, ठीक है, gazetted notification. As per the notification dated 8 April 2016, the following are qualify for the infrastructure project. कौन कौन से, जैसे ट्रांसपोर्ट है, ठीक है, रोड ब्रिज आपका 10, आपका इनलैंड वाटरवेज, एयरपोर्ट, आपका रेलवे ट्रैक्स, टनल्स, ठीक है, या अदर्स, ठीक है। एनर्जी आपका इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन, ट्रांसमिशन, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, आपका ऑयल गैस, एलएनजी, स्टोरेज एंड गैस पाइपलाइंस, ठीक है। वाटर एंड सैनिटेशन आपका, ठीक है, सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट, वाटर सप्लाई ट्रीटमेंट्स, कम्युनिकेशन आपका टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस इंक्लूडिंग फिक्स नेटवर्क्स, telecom towers and services, social and commercial infrastructure आपका जैसे education, आपका star rated hotels, industrial peaks, cost storage, large hotels and convention centers आपका, ठीक है, where greater than 200 to 300 crore rupees cost आपका special. So these are the areas आपका which are generally categorized as a infrastructure project by the Ministry of Finance. Special feature for infrastructure project आपका long gestation period आपका, because like the completion period of these particular project is like 3 years, 5 years, 10 years and all, ठीक है। So that gestation period is very long, ठीक है, because that company will start generating profit or income after 3 years or after 5 years, then only they will be able to repay the amount, ठीक है। So that's why this high debt to equity ratio, because to finance or to construct those particular project they have to take a debt obviously, so their आपका debt to equity ratio will be at higher side. Extended payback period also, ठीक है, because 3 years there is no income, so that is why, ठीक है। So while the basic appraisal principle remain the same as we have discussed earlier, 8 principle, as other project infrastructure project require additional consideration as per the RBI guidelines, ठीक है। So now type of bank financing for infrastructure project, will come to RBI guidelines also. Bank can provide various form of finance such as working capital, term loan, project finance, debenture, bonds, equity participation. These can be either funded or non-funded facilities, ठीक है। तो जिसमें की फाइनेंसिंग टाइप आपका टेक आउट फाइनेंसिंग, जहाँ पे लाइक आपका basically we are taking money from DFIs आपका, ठीक है, और we are lending to this particular one, so we have some sort of risk sharing and all, ठीक है। So take out finance, bank collaborate with institution like IDFC or other DFIs, ठीक है, help manage long term funding by allowing bank to transfer the loan to another institutions after a certain period, ठीक है। इंटर इंस्टीट्यूशनल गारंटी आपका, ठीक है, बैंक में इश्यू गारंटी फॉर अदर लैंडर्स in infrastructure project. The issuing bank must have at least 5% of funded stake in the projects and perform due diligence and monitoring, ठीक है। Financing promoters equity, normally promoters equity should come from their own funds आपका। RBI allow exceptions for acquiring promoters shares in companies engaged in infrastructure under the strict conditions and all, ठीक है। So apart from this, conditions of exceptions for financing promoters equity, this is again very very important one, so many time you'll see question based on this particular one, okay? So only for infrastructure companies and where existing promoters are willing to invest as per the SEBI norms, okay? Specialized entities आपका set up to revive the troubled companies can be financed with the with assessment of risk and debt to equity ratio not exceeding 3:1 आपका, ठीक है. No defaulters, promoters and directors should not be defaulter to banks or financial institutions. Promoters conditions limit आपका, ठीक है. Bank finance should not exceed 50% of the funds required for the acquiring shares. Security must be backed by assets of the company being acquired, with shares accepted only as additional, not primary security, ठीक है. Margin requirements, stipulated margin must be maintained by banks at all time. Loan tenures आपका minimum 7 years unless exception are approved by the banks. Legal compliance आपका subject to section 19(2) of BR Act 1949. Exposure limit, acquisition of equity must be within a 40% cap of the bank net worth. Approvals आपका, proposal must be approved by the bank board आपका, ठीक है. So these are some key guidelines, very important one. ऐसी चीजें देखो, ये चीजें ऐसी है ना, मतलब अगर आप खुद से भी पढ़ोगे तो भी समझ में आ जाएगा, ठीक है. एंड वेरी कंफ्यूजिंग, जब हम इनको सॉल्व करते हैं ना तो वहां पे कुछ ना कुछ, देखो 40% का 50% लिखा होगा, दैट विल बी कंफ्यूजिंग, ठीक है. 30% लिखा होगा, याद है. तो दिस यू कैन सॉल्व थ्रू द प्रैक्टिस आपका, ठीक है. जैसे आपका डेट टू इक्विटी रेशियो इज आपका 3.1. तो ये थोड़ा सा ना चीजें आपको प्रैक्टिस से जितना ज्यादा करोगे उतनी ज्यादा याद होगी, ठीक है. सो अप्रेजल एंड प्रूडेंशियल रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर फाइनेंसिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट, ठीक है. पहला आपका ड्यू डिलिजेंस बाय बैंक. इवन फॉर प्रोजेक्ट्स बाय government owned entities, bank must assess the project viability thoroughly, ठीक है. अगर गवर्नमेंट प्रोजेक्ट भी है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट कैन नॉट रिप्लेस प्रॉपर क्रेडिट अप्रेजल, ठीक है. अप्रेजल शुड बी independent of any standing payments instructions from the RBI or other banks. SPVs, we can create SPVs आपका, ठीक है. Many infrastructure projects are financed by SPV, special purpose vehicles, requiring specialized appraisal skills. Bank should evaluate risk, contract and credit worthiness of all involved entities in the SPV आपका, ठीक है. Bank may create specialized committees to these evaluations. In large project with multiple financial, bank may rely on lead banks appraisals or jointly appraise the project, ठीक है. So lead bank means आपका जिसका maximum contribution, and lead bank who is generally arranging other banks आपका in this case, ठीक है. Prudential requirements, capital adequacy. Bank must follow RBI guidelines under the capital adequacy framework for risk weighting infrastructure loans. Asset liability management, infrastructure project financing can cause asset liability mismatch due to long gestation period. Bank must match funding tenures with asset duration to prevent liquidity risk. Administrative arrangement आपका, timely and assured credit flow. Bank should streamline proposal processing and avoid delays. They must set up a proper monitoring and tracking system to ensure funds are used as intended, ठीक है. There is no chipponing of funds as well, ठीक है. So take out finance आपका, take out finance or liquidity support. So mechanism is enable bank to lend to infrastructure without long-term asset liability mismatch by allowing another institution like IDFC to refinance loan after a certain period. This is something आपका, there is bank is working as a mediator between आपका construction company और आपका infrastructure company and आपका institution like IDFC or any other DFIs, ठीक है. So structure agreement are made with institutions like IDFC, SBI for refinancing. IDFC would repay the bank and assume the credit risk. Product benefits आपका, ठीक है. This help manage risk and liquidity while supporting infrastructure financing and all, ठीक है. So for infrastructure we have IDFC and we can refinance through that particular one, and even we have syndication of loan also. There is one another facility, it should be part of this one, ठीक है. So partial credit enhance to corporate bonds, ठीक है. So purpose आपका improve the credit ratings and marketability of bond issued by the companies or SPV for infrastructure funding, ठीक है. RBI framework for this particular one is allow bank to provide BCE, that is the partial credit enhancement, ठीक है, up to 50% of bond issue size, but only 20% can be unconditional support and remaining 30% must be आपका contingent in nature, ठीक है. Eligibility bond must be rated at least triple B minus, ठीक है, at least triple B minus आपका, ठीक है, initially and triple B plus after enhancement, ठीक है. PCE can't be offered to bonds not rated or intangible by the SEBI आपका, ठीक है. So these are very important factors around the PCE, ठीक है. So partial credit enhancement to corporate bonds, basically they can finance their projects and all with this particular route also, ठीक है. And these guidelines which we need to meet आपका, ठीक है. So bank exposure, PC exposure should be treated as funded credit exposure, ठीक है. The full amount must be provisioned and capitalized. Risk sharing, term of support, default triggers, and fund sharing should be clearly agreed upon before bond issuance, ठीक है. So one another mode आपका financing of cost overruns, ठीक है. So standby credit facility, globally lenders provide standby credit facility which is similar to आपका standby is आपका kind of financial guarantee, because there are some country like US, आपका UK, there is no financial guarantee can be provided by institutions. So the replacement terms of financial guarantee is आपका standby credit facility, ठीक है. Usually we like in case of LC and all, we generally use this one, ठीक है. So financial closure to fund cost overruns, ठीक है. This was only by overcome occurs when overcome occurs, ठीक है. These are included in project risk assessment and share the repayment terms with base project loans and all, ठीक है. मतलब like we are instantly, basically infrastructure companies, they are entering into a contract with the banks or financial institutions for आपका cost overruns, ठीक है. So जैसे let's say estimated cost is 1000 crores. Now when we executed that particular project, there is a realization that the actual cost is 1200 crores. So now from where we'll arrange that 200 crores. That 200 crores can be managed through the आपका cost overrun contract with the banks, ठीक है. So these are the pre-approved standby facility. If bank have sanctioned such facility during our initial financing closures, they may finance cost overrun as per the agreed terms, ठीक है. Post financial closure cost overruns, ठीक है. In initial pre-finance आपका predetermined condition and all, ठीक है. If initial closure did not account for the overruns, bank may still finance them due to DCCO extension up to 2 years for infrastructure and 1 year for non-infrastructure project without classifying the loan as restructured asset. आपको please do remember this one, very very important statement आपका, ठीक है, बहुत important है, ध्यान रखिएगा examinations के लिए, ठीक है. So if these conditions are met, so now what are the conditions? We have given 5 conditions. पहला, only interest during the construction can be funded if delays अगर, ठीक है. So only interest during the constructions can be funded if delays, ठीक है. तो भी like we are not charging and all, ठीक है, interest आपका only will be charged, ठीक है. Other overrun आपका excluding IDC can be funded up to 10% of original project cost आपका, ठीक है. अगर 1000 करोड़ है, that means 100 करोड़ is the maximum, ठीक है. Debt to equity ratio from initial closure must remain unchanged or improve in lenders favor आपका, ठीक है. मीन्स कम होना चाहिए आपका डेट टू इक्विटी रेशियो, ऐसा नहीं कि उसने और भी डेट ले लिया तो दैट विल बी इशू. Fund for overrun to be dispersed only after promoters contribute their shares, ठीक है. All other loan term must remain unchanged or improved for the lenders आपका, ठीक है. So these are the one. 10% ceiling, if it comes to this 10% cost overrun ceiling apply to all overruns except IDC, ठीक है. Including those due to currency fluctuation or extended DCCO, ठीक है. So very very important statement guys, ठीक है. This is it. So this is all about your term loan. I hope you enjoy the discussion, ठीक है. So पूरा आपका each and every single subtopic of this particular one, ठीक है. This is the content which you required for to handle any question related to your unit number 20 which is term loan, ठीक है. तो कैसा लगा जरूर बताइएगा आपका, ठीक है. And if you have any doubt, so you can connect me through Telegram, ठीक है. Or else those who are already on application, ठीक है, I have uploaded BFM all आपको PDFs in free sections of the application, ठीक है. And we have uploaded I have start uploading for the ABM also, ठीक है. And those who are preparing for November December 2025 examination, so they can access to CAIB foundation batch, as well as आपका best is there is around 300-400 difference. You can go for the Mahapek, because in Mahapek it is hardly for 2000, and you will get everything Sapa which you required for this examination for 1 year. ठीक है? I have done आपका one set आपका ABM I'm writing, otherwise other subject are done. ठीक है? Until your December examination, I'll be creating a fresh content for all the 5 subject आपका. ठीक है? I'll be adding some other team members, so you can access to those particular one. ठीक है? So I hope you enjoy this session. Please do share your feedbacks आपका in the comment section. Or if you have any doubt, you can connect me on Telegram or application. Just send me your queries and all. I'll try to help you out with those particular ones. So in the evening itself, we will be practicing a set of question around this particular topic. So stay tuned for that one. All right. So this is it from my side, guys. Thank you for joining this session. Thank you for watching this session. Bye bye. Take care all, and all the very best for your preparation, guys. Thank you.